Creative Mind, Exploring the Art of Thinking by Forrest Kinney. Both, neither. Either left or right. Either male or female. Either happy or sad. We tend to think in two opposing terms. I call this basic binary thinking, while others call it either-or thinking. Inside or outside. It's either yes or no. Now, there are times when limiting our options to just two can be useful and appropriate, but such binary thinking is rather crude and can severely limit our options and creative possibilities. Life is often much more like this sign. With basic binary thinking, we are directed by an often unconscious assumption that if one way is right, the other way is wrong. The light switch is either on or it's off. It can't be both at the same time. Now, this on-off way of thinking might be accurate when dealing with light switches or some situations, but when there are many possibilities from which to choose, this kind of thinking is often way too limiting. We can immediately become better at making choices and exploring possibilities by changing the rules of this binary thinking game. Suppose that we are making a choice between doing either this or that. In binary thinking, this is on and that is off. So we'll do this and not that. Or this is off and that is on. Well, here we are, stuck in binary thinking. So let's break out of it. Why can't we do both? Or neither? Now, this way of thinking opens the door to considering other possibilities than just this and that. So let's put this both-neither way of thinking to work in our daily lives. One of the most important decisions we make in our life is about our work, our vocation, our job. I have a friend who at the age of 15 somehow determined she was either going to be a doctor or a lawyer. So she became a doctor and years later admitted to me that she wasn't happy with that choice. If her thinking had been different, she might have allowed herself the possibility of doing both, somehow blending them into one career. And if her thinking had allowed her the possibility of doing neither, she might have become an author because of her love of writing and reading. For someone else, doing neither might have meant becoming a golf pro or a musician. The both-neither way of thinking helps in all sorts of decision-making, especially when we're stuck in either-or thinking. Suppose I want to drive to the Oregon coast this weekend, while my companion is more interested in driving up to Vancouver, BC. Well, it's either the ocean or Vancouver. Which? Well, let's consider both. Maybe we take Monday off and do a lot of driving, or one this weekend and one the next. What about doing neither? Maybe we hike in the mountains nearby, or drive to eastern Washington, or all the way to Montana. Now, here's an important issue in everyday life. What's for dessert? Say I want some ice cream, and there is a new green tea flavor to try at the corner ice cream store. Either that, or I get my favorite, good old vanilla. Well, how about both? Yes, as it turns out, they can swirl them together. Or I can eat one cone now and one soon after. Or how about neither? What's interesting about neither is that this could mean skipping dessert entirely, or to have chocolate instead. Ah, to live in a world of possibilities. Let's turn to science. One of the values of the both-neither way of thinking is that it invites us to consider interesting possibilities, such as paradoxes. For example, physicists in the early 20th century could not decide if light was fundamentally like waves or particles. Like the surface of this desert, it exhibited properties of both. Well, what about both? Someone even combined the word wave with the word particle to create the term wavicle, which describes that which has the properties of both wave and particle. And what about neither? This allows that light might be something else entirely. Let's turn to the field of politics. The political process begins with the way we elect our representatives. Now, this ballot is set up according to basic binary thinking, so there's only the one simple choice. But what about if we made room for more options? Wouldn't it be interesting if we could have both? What if there were two excellent candidates who were willing to share the job and work together? Or perhaps both means that I choose the one candidate that best represents the best of both points of view. And this ballot allows the possibility of neither, so other candidates could be written in. Let's apply this to creative activity, say composing music. Suppose I come up with a short theme. Should it be this way? Or this way? Ending on a higher pitch. Or both? That's an idea. I could do both at a different time in the piece, or maybe I could run them together to make a longer theme. Or maybe I choose neither. Maybe I want the theme to end on an even higher note. I have found that both neither thinking has been very helpful in many aspects of my life, mainly because it gets me out of either or thinking and immediately gets me exploring other options. When sharing this practice with others, I found it useful to use my hand to demonstrate. I say with binary thinking you have two options. You either choose this or that. Now consider the possibility of choosing both. Or neither. This hand position shows how we immediately allow possibilities that we hadn't considered before. When I've shared this, some people say that the both neither practice generates way too many options. But the job of thinking is not just to reduce our options to a manageable number like 2. It is also to help generate a lot of options before we narrow them down. Too often, we reduce our options to just a few before we have even considered the possibilities. So whenever you find yourself framing your options as either this or that, think or both or neither. I hope you enjoy exploring all the new creative possibilities.